This is a review of the concepts that were on Unit 1, Quiz 2. This included inequalities, both writing and graphing them, and graphing on a coordinate plane. So let's start with inequalities, and let's review what these symbols are called and what type of circle you use when you graph them. So the first symbol is the less than symbol. And one way to remember that is if you turn it slightly sideways, it looks like an L. An L means less than. When you graph it, you use an open circle. The one underneath it is the greater than symbol. Also, when you graph that, you use an open circle. That means these 2 points themselves that you're talking about comparing are not included. The next one is less than or equal to. Or equal to, and that's a closed circle. And the last one is greater than or equal to, also a closed circle. That means the points themselves that you're comparing x to are included. When you write double inequalities, there are 2 things that you have to keep in mind. First of all, you have to put the numbers in order. Either least to greatest or greatest to least, it doesn't matter. The second thing you need to do is put inequality symbols in between the numbers. So for example, if we are writing a double inequality for -3, 5, and -2, the first thing I'm going to do is put the numbers in order. I like to go from least to greatest, but you can do it the other way as well. So that would be -3, -2, 5. Notice how I left some space in between each number and I did not put any commas. That's because I have to fill in those spaces with the inequality symbols. So -3 is less than -2, and -2 is less than 5. Next one, 0, -1, and 4. Again, I'm going to put them in order from least to greatest. So that would be -1, space, 0, space, and then 4. -1 is less than 0, so that's the symbol I use, and 0 is less than 4. If you notice in both of these examples, the symbols are the same and they're going in the same direction. You'll find that when you write double inequalities that should always be the case. Next section, graphing inequalities. Again, there's 2 steps here that you need to keep in mind. The first one is you need to put an open or closed circle on the number that's in the inequality. Second of all, you need to shade in the appropriate direction. Based on the symbol, and my hint is that you should test a number in the shaded area to make sure it makes sense. All right, so let's do an example. This one says x is less than -2. So because it's less than and there's no line under it, that means -2 is not included. So I'm going to do an open circle. And then I have to think, where are the numbers that are actually less than -2? Because that's what x stands for, and that's where I'm going to shade. So the numbers that are less than -2 are on this side. So I'm going to shade all the way from the circle down to the arrow. Next one, x is greater than or equal to 0. Because it's greater than or equal to, I'm going to do a closed circle. Make sure you make that very clear that it's closed and that it's a circle. And then because this says greater than, the numbers that are greater than 0 are above. So I could pick a number up here just to check, like 4. Is 4 greater than 0? Yes, that means I shaded in the right direction. All right, take a minute and pause the video and try these next 2 examples on your own, and then start up the video when you're done and see how you did. Okay, so here we have 1 is less than x, so I'm going to do an open circle on the 1, and then I have to see where is 1 less than, like what numbers is 1 less than? Well, 1 is less than 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, so I'm going to shade up here, and then I can pick a number just to check, so 1 is less than 3. Yes, that means I shaded in the right direction. Next one, -3 is less than or equal to x. So I'm going to do a closed circle on -3. And then -3 has to be less than the numbers that I shade. Well, -3 is less than 0. So that means I'm going to shade towards the 0 all the way up to the end. Now, these next 2 examples are double inequalities. That means we're going to have 2 circles. So -4 being less than x. So the -4 goes with this symbol, and then x being less than or equal to -3, that goes with the next number. Okay, so we're going to have 2 circles. So for -4 being less than x, I'm going to do an open circle. And for x being less than or equal to 3, I'm going to do a closed circle. And then you can see in this inequality, x is literally in between these 2 numbers, so you're going to shade in between as well. You're going to shade between the dots. Okay. All right, let's try another one of those. So for -1 being less than or equal to x, I need a closed circle. And then for x being less than 5, I need an open circle. And then again, I'm going to shade in between the numbers because those are all the numbers that would make x be true. So for example, let's pick 2 and just try it out. So -1 is less than or equal to 2. That is correct. And 2 is also less than 5. That is correct as well. That's how you know you shaded in the right space. Now on to the next part, writing inequalities. Okay, now you are going to write the inequality for these graphs. So there's always a dot and then the shading. You can start with the x or with the number. I'll show you how to do it both ways. So in this case, I'm going to start with x. You could use any variable. And x is all of these numbers. And these numbers are bigger than -3. So I'm going to say greater than. But because it's a closed circle, I have to say greater than or equal to, and then the actual number. Okay, you could also start with the number. So then I would be starting with -3. And -3 is smaller than all these numbers. But because it's a closed circle, it's less than or equal to. So you could do it either way. The number first or the variable first. Take a second right now and pause the video and see if you can do these next 2 examples. And start the video up again when you're done and see how you did. All right, I'm going to start with the variable for this one. So x is the shaded numbers down here. These are all smaller than 2, so I'm going to say less than 2. But because it's a closed circle, we have to do less than or equal to. You could have also flipped the whole thing around and said 2 is greater than or equal to x. And the next one, I'm going to start with the variable again. All of these numbers are bigger than where the circle is. So that means x is greater than -2. It's an open circle, so I don't need to say greater than or equal to. It's just greater than. You could also flip it around and say -2 is less than x. Now down here we have 2 double inequality examples. So we're going to have 2 numbers for the 2 circles. So I'm going to start with the one on the left. So -1 is smaller than all these numbers that are shaded. But because it's a closed circle, I have to say less than or equal to. X is the numbers that are in between here. So I'm going to put the x next. And all of these numbers you'll see are also less than 5. And because 5 is an open circle, I don't need to say less than or equal to. I would just say less than. Take a minute and pause the video. Try this next example and restart it again when you're ready to see how you did. All right, I'm going to start with the lowest number. So -4 is less than x, which is less than or equal to 0. Because it's a closed circle, I have to say less than or equal to. All right, next page. First of all, we're going to label everything on this coordinate plane. So this last page is all about graphing on a coordinate plane. So we're going to label the quadrants. Remember, the quadrants have to be Roman numerals. So quadrant 1 is over here. Quadrant 2, we go around in a circle backwards. Quadrant 3 is down here, and quadrant 4 is over here. We're also going to label the x-axis, which is horizontal, and the y-axis, which is vertical. And then the origin is in the middle. You'll remember from the notes that the origin has a value of 0, 0. Okay, another note is that when you write coordinates, the x value comes first and then the y value, and it has to be in parentheses. You might see on your quiz, and you'll definitely see it on your test, that if you do not put the points in parentheses, you're going to lose half a point. Otherwise, it just looks like a list of numbers. It doesn't delineate it as an actual coordinate. All right, so we're going to graph a few of these together, and then you can pause the video and try some on your own. So the first one, 5, 2. So we're going to do x first, so go over to 5, and then up 2. That's where we're going to put the first point, so there's number 1. The second point, -6, 3, so I'm going to go left 6 and up 3, so here's point number 2. Number 3, -7, -1. I'm going to go left first and then down 1. So there's point number 3. Pause the video right here and see if you can do 4, 5, and 6 on your own, and restart the video when you're ready to see how you did. All right, so for number 4, +9, -4. I'm going to go to the right 9 and down 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Just count the lines. So this is number 4. And then for number 5, 0 means if I'm starting in the middle, I don't go side to side, I just go up 8. So that would be on the y-axis. That's number 5. And then number 6, -2, 0. I'm going to go to the left 2, and I don't go up or down. That means I'm on the x-axis. There's number 6. Now for the bottom part down here, we are going to identify the coordinate and the location, which is either a quadrant or an axis. So for point A, I have to go over 7, and then I don't go up or down. So that means my coordinate is 7, 0 in parentheses. This is not in a quadrant, but it's on the x-axis. So that's what I would write next. All right, point B is down here. So from the middle, I don't go side to side. I just go down 8. So that means my point is 0, -8. And it's not in a quadrant, it's on the y-axis. Next one, point C, I have to go left 9 and then up 9. So that means my point is -9, +9, and that is in quadrant 2. Take a minute right here and pause the video, see if you can do 4, 5, and 6, and then play the video again when you're ready to see how you did. All right, for point D, I have to go left to -4 and then down to -2. So it's -4, -2. That is in quadrant 3. E, I go right 10 and down 6. So 10, -6. That's in quadrant 4. And then F is over 1, up 1. So +1, +1, and that's in quadrant 1.